Hello, and welcome to another installment of Astrology versus Psychology. I'm Nikki DeCaster with 11th House Publishing, a nonprofit neuro-subversive publishing company. And I have 10 plus years in the trenches doing astrology readings. And I'm joined here today by Sarah Castaneda, who is an author
Hello.
and poet and
Yes.
has a book coming out very, very soon. That's
Yes.
right?
I have a book called Underdog Bet coming out on March 27th. You can get it on Amazon and Barnes & Noble or Pegasus. You can go to the Pegasus website. So
I will put links below for anybody who's interested. Sarah's a fantastic poet, I should say. Very evocative and thought-provoking, your work is. So it's a treasure for the eyes. And today we're going to be taking a look at antisocial personality disorder. So just, getting into society, misbehaving, often ends up in jail time, but not always. And it's something that's when I first thought about it, because it's a cluster B personality disorder. And they're sort of I view them almost like the wasps of the DSM-5, right? The ones that everybody's like, oh crap, you got antisocial personality disorder, duck. Covered, right? So hopefully we can take a look from the lens of astrology and kind of understand what energies might be at play, to better understand why these individuals are the way they are, how we might mitigate it. With astrology, there is no good or bad. It's all a spectrum. So there's a lower frequency and a higher frequency. And if we can help people understand that, maybe move them up into the higher, it just makes kind of for a more pleasant life for everybody. So with the cluster B personality disorders in general, I took a look at them through the lens of the fixed signs. So they're just bucking the system at the end of the day, like so much of this really is, but this is in a way that kind of takes it to the next level of not caring about others, not caring about consequences, or not being able to even see consequences. And with the fixed signs in particular, there tends to be like they get set in their ways, whether it be from childhood, because this can happen. Oftentimes, children will learn from a parent who has antisocial personality disorder, and then it's the part of their personality until they learn differently down the line. Either they're going to jail or maybe getting court ordered therapy. There's various methods depending on how severe it gets. Because not everybody goes to jail, but a lot of people with this disorder end up there, unfortunately. And it's got a lot of nuances to it that I think I'm going to just kind of hop right into what the DSM-5 has to say for the criteria, and then we'll go through and I'll kind of pick out the fixed signs and why I see that more. So, Sarah, do you have any experience with antisocial personality disorder?
well, it's like
Those around you.
well, is antisocial, does that fall under like rebellion against like society or against the status quo, or is it just, I mean, what exactly is it? They just sort of go against the flow, or is it just people
So
who
it's more like
have friction with
harm,
people?
causing damage,
Okay,
reckless disregard, and that sort of thing. So we'll get into it.
disregard. Okay,
Pull it up right now.
okay. Oh, cool. Yeah.
All right, so the diagnostic criteria is a pervasive pattern of disregard for and violation of the rights of others, occurring since the age of 15, as indicated by 3 or more of the following. So from what I understand, this can't be diagnosed until the age of 18, but
Okay.
oftentimes like they'll take into account, and it's kind of a requirement that there has been um, a pattern of behavior in the earlier years as well.
Okay.
So I found that interesting.
Yeah.
But failure to conform to social norms with respect to lawful behaviors as indicated by repeatedly performing acts that are grounds for arrest. So it's pretty self-explanatory.
Okay.
Uh, and the reason that I see like the fixed signs, in particular, like Leo, I would say, or like somebody with prominent sun, they can get very much into the I'm gonna do what I want. Like in the lower frequency, it's me, me, me. It's like that very childlike view of the world, not even able to see outside of themselves. It's like they are the sun and everything else is blinded.
Mhm.
Or even the Taurus energy, which can get very methodically, I'm doing this just because I feel like it. Think about a bull, like Taurus,
Yeah.
once it gets going and it wants, if it wants to go over into that field, good luck. You can't get that bull to turn anywhere else. It's going
Right.
to do what it wants, and it's your problem if you don't like it.
Yeah.
The fixed signs can be very stubborn and stuck in their ways. So that's where I could see something like that coming in. Like, what's the social norm? I don't really care, either because I'm too engrossed in what I'm doing, or maybe because society hasn't cared about me, right?
Mhm.
Why should I give back to them? Another thing that I find interesting as we go through here is to think, you've got your lower level crimes, maybe like breaking and entering, for example.
Mhm.
Um, but then there's the higher level crimes with this war crimes, right? So
Mm.
not only will you see the lower level crimes, but politicians, I would
Oh,
argue,
that's
yeah, yes,
interesting.
very much so. CEOs, like people who get up into high positions of power, have this personality disorder a lot, and psychopathy to go along with it.
Huh.
Whether or not it's a low level crime, like we often think of antisocial personality disorder in that way, but you know, and I guess that's where like lawful behavior comes in, right? What's
Mm.
lawful? Is the war sanctioned or not? These are kind of bigger questions that we can get into, but
Yeah.
deceitfulness, as indicated by repeated lying, use of aliases, or conning others for personal profit or pleasure. Sounds like politicians, right?
Oh, yeah.
you know, or anybody who's just trying to kind of get ahead and they don't care who they step on, right?
Mm.
So you got like Ponzi schemes like Bernie Madoff,
Oh, yeah. Oh, God.
I would consider him in with this group.
You know what I don't understand about Ponzi schemes? It's like they're always gonna fall. They're always gonna fail. How does a person think that's I guess it's that sort of hubris or something, or maybe it's this disorder that you think it can go on forever. It will
Well, yeah,
eventually fall, and you're gonna get caught.
impulsivity or the failure to plan ahead,
Yeah.
right? So it's just like, well, it doesn't matter because that's a problem for future me, and I can't really see that far. And
Yeah.
especially if these personality disorders come from a place of trauma or neglect earlier in life, they're not able to see like past that moment.
Yeah.
It's all about survival. So failure to plan ahead means like, well, that's tomorrow. I got to worry about me today,
Yeah.
right?
Hmm. That's so interesting.
So now, just because you have impulsivity or the failure to plan ahead doesn't mean that you automatically are antisocial.
Right.
There's a lot of different things, including like ADHD. Like it's hard to plan ahead just by the nature of the brain always sort of like, but what if, what if, what if? So it's very different than not caring about the consequences of one's actions, which is more
Right.
where this one comes in. So irritability and aggressiveness, as indicated by repeated physical fights or assaults. Um, the reckless disregard for safety or of self or others. So if you think about that, like the reckless disregard, that could be as simple as speeding. Some of
Oh,
these,
yeah.
like we all do to some extent, but it's just a matter of the frequency of them. So this is like 3 or more of these criteria as kind of a part of your lifestyle is to take a look at it. So if you've been in a fight once in your life and you speed, doesn't mean that you're 2 out of
Antisocial. Exactly.
consistent irresponsibility is indicated by repeated failure to sustain consistent work behavior or honor financial obligations. And lack of remorse is indicated by being indifferent or rationalizing having hurt or mistreated or stolen from another. Again, you get back to like the CEO behavior, like how many of them are stealing from their employees and not caring. And that's held up as like, oh, you're doing good, you're good for the bottom line. So, or like you're irresponsible because you're not honoring your work obligations. So it's a part of a disorder because you're not being a nice little worker drone.
Yeah.
So especially with like Leo, and we all have Leo in us. We all have our sun, our soul, like that individual part of us, our inner king or queen. That is our own authority. So when you get things like, you have to go be a worker drone, that doesn't go over well with all the energies. Some of them can do it. It depends on the situation. But some of them are like, well, I want to do other things, or there's other things that are important to me besides, killing myself on a 9-to-5 job,
Yeah.
for very little pay, or depending on the social contract, we're having a lot of trouble right now with people not wanting to work crappy jobs that don't pay them enough to live. And then it's like, well, what's wrong with these people? They won't work these jobs. No, they can't.
Right.
They would like to have a life in addition to doing whatever it is you need them to be the cog in the machine, right?
Yeah.
And so that ability to be that inner queen of yourself and be like, I'm not doing that. I'm going to go do something else. So maybe I'm making money outside of the system, right? Whether that's through a Ponzi scheme, whether that's through selling drugs, or something illegal. They're finding these different ways that then might get them into trouble because it's not breaking the law in the white collar sense of the word.
Yeah.
The kind that is often pardoned as the president leaves.
Yeah.
So yeah, you have to have three or more of those 7, and then it says here that you got to be 18. Talked about that before. There's evidence of conduct disorder onset before 15, and the occurrence of the antisocial behavior is not exclusively during the course of a schizophrenic or bipolar episode. So a lot of times you'll see with these that there's overlap between all of them, but that's the basic criteria.
Okay.
And just again, seeing that it comes down to a lot of it is being autonomous and not caring about the consequences. So
Right.
with the Leo energy and being that inner king or queen, or the Taurus being very stubborn and doing what it wants. You might also see scorpionic energy in here, which gets very much more into the emotional state of things. So if things aren't sitting right with them emotionally, they might buck the system in these ways. I don't like how being a cog in this machine is making me feel, right?
Yeah.
But as we'll get into with some of these charts, a lot of them that I found have the Leo and Taurus. So
Okay.
that seemed to have played out. There tends to be with antisocial personality disorder, for whatever reason, men are diagnosed more than women.
Huh.
And that could just be because women maybe tend towards borderline, which we'll get into, I think, next time. I'm going to be taking a look at that.
That's interesting.
So it just depends on maybe there's a gender aspect there that I could see. And you could see that with like just being autonomous and wanting to kind of be more in the masculine energy of I'm my own boss. I don't want you to be my boss, so I'm not going to fit into the system. And I
Yeah.
don't want who I hurt necessarily because maybe they haven't cared about who's hurt me. It's a very survival, kill or be killed mentality on the lower end, right?
Mhm.
Because on the higher end, like the Leo energy is very fun loving, very free and childlike, wondrous, like just wants to explore and have fun and um, be able to do what they want when they want to do it,
Yeah.
you know. And so you'll see people gravitate towards these positions of authority so that they can do that in a way that doesn't get them into trouble.
Yeah.
You know,
And I
so
think also share with other people
yeah,
that sort of joy as well, you know?
exactly. So like ideally, if you're the queen, like you're sharing a very fruitful kingdom.
Yeah.
You know? And the same thing with Taurus. Like Taurus energy deals with agriculture and cultivating things. And so we have this full field of this harvest that we can then share with everybody else.
Oh,
You know?
that's cool.
And Taurus also deals with money.
Oh, I didn't know that.
On the lower end, it can be very miserly, and I want to get mine, and I want to make sure that I'm taken care of, and screw everybody else. But on the higher end, it's very much like, come eat at my table. I have bounty. I have plenty. So it really depends on what your uh, experience of life has been, right?
Mhm.
And so with antisocial personality disorder, there's also like a lot of the diagnosed ones that I saw are people like Ted Bundy.
Okay.
So like a lot of the psychopaths and the killers, that's who are more kind of understood. But it can range, you know, very much so. You can have antisocial personality disorder and never have gone to jail. Like you might skirt that line. Right.
Right.
So we'll take a look at some other ones. But as you can see, Ted Bundy's got that Leo energy, right?
Mhm.
And the scorpionic with Pluto there. So very much I'm going to do what I want and I don't care.
Yeah. That's pretty strong right there, huh?
Leo is also very passionate and charismatic energy. These individuals tend to kind of know how to play the field, especially as you go higher up. It can be very charming. You know,
Yeah.
how do you get a Ponzi scheme to work with a smile,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So, and then he's also got Saturn here, which is the ruler of Capricorn, which is also very much it's the CEO energy. I am the maker of my own reality and screw
Oh,
everybody else.
okay.
You can see that. Um, I put Trump on here, like he's been
Oh.
involved in many a scheme, right? And is the current president. So like, and he's got Leo here with again that scorpionic Pluto, scorpionic Mars in there of just sort of, you know, talk about impulsive behavior.
Mhm.
That's right there. So he's just doing what he wants to do and he doesn't really care. He doesn't see the consequences of it.
Now,
You
what
know,
does the Pluto do? The Pluto energy.
so the Pluto is very there's a very deep psychologically controlling element to it. Whereas like the Saturn energy and the Capricornian energy is more physically controlling. This
Mhm.
is more getting into the psychology.
Oh, okay.
Right. So things like the neuro-linguistic programming that Trump is very good at. It's his cadence.
Oh,
I
yeah.
wonder why he speaks the way he speaks. It's
Yeah.
to win. He's very calculated, and how like even like his
He
hand
uses his
gestures
hands.
are designed to draw you in, and then he also goes straight for the emotion. and
Yeah.
knows how to do it in like this fun kind of way, right?
Hmm.
So he exudes that kind of, he makes you laugh. For better, for worse, whatever you think. Like, so he's got that energy. A lot of politicians do actually. Leo is the sign of the politician for that reason.
Mm.
So it in the highest, again, it's wanting everybody to have a good life and to shine brightly. And the lower
Yeah.
is very much the narcissistic paradigm as well. And there's often overlap between antisocial personality and narcissism. So, but we'll get into that in another
I
time.
think Trump, maybe you laugh in disbelief. Maybe it's antisocial behavior is so apparent.
Right? It's over the top. Yeah. So I could go on about Trump's chart for a long time. Then we got Bernie Madoff here. Again, another Leo,
Yeah.
right? Leo ascendant. I didn't go into that in this video, but the AC stands for ascendant. It's your rising sign, kind of your overarching energy of your life.
Mm.
So very, very important. And he doesn't quite have the Pluto there, but that feeling of just putting himself first is absolutely there. And then we see he's got Taurus sun and moon. So it's
Mm.
pretty much, I want the finer things in life. I don't care. You got both of these energies that I talked about being very fixed in their ways and deadly consequences. That's something for somebody else to deal with down the line. In the meanwhile, I'm at the top of the pyramid, not thinking about how it's going to fall or that
Yeah.
he'll get caught, or that he's not well known enough to get out of it. Like he might have thought he had friends in high enough places. And oftentimes these people do, right?
Yeah.
Some get away with murder.
Yeah. Exactly.
Johnny Carson came up on a list. I'm not sure if he got the formal diagnosis or this was just kind of talked about how he was very personal.
Yeah.
Obviously not in a way that, he's going to jail or really super hurting people, but
Right.
in terms of just pulling back and doing his own thing, I think
Yeah.
there's, an aspect of that. And it makes sense because here we get the more scorpionic energy, with his sun here on the cusp, his rising sign in Scorpio, and then he's got Saturn and Mercury there as well. And so Scorpio tends to be less, I guess, flamboyant of the fixed signs. It's more inward. It's going to be more in the shadows. You're not going to see it as pronounced,
Okay.
right? So if Carson was up to some shenanigans, it was well hidden. It's
Yeah.
something that a lot of people know, and I don't know a whole lot about him in his biography, but he's also got his moon here, so his lower mind and emotions in Capricorn, which is very much my way. Like I'm going to do things my way, and everybody get out of the way.
Yeah. He was very, I think from what I've read, I mean, he was very, he didn't like things done differently than what he had planned them to be. He would
Yeah,
get upset if guests sort of went out of what he believed they should do and then didn't ask them back, like,
yeah,
ever. And if you were
yeah.
banned from the Johnny Carson show, that was a pretty big deal. You kind of were screwed.
Yeah. So in this case, we see like he had that power. He didn't have to worry about bucking the system. He was the system, right? So it
Yeah.
all depends on where you sit.
Yeah. I know when Joan Rivers went off and did they offered her own talk show or her own late night show. And she used to co-host with Johnny Carson a lot, or she would not co-host. She would come in for him. She would sit in for him They had a really good relationship. And when she got offered her own late night show, he felt so betrayed by her that he like never would speak to her again. And she was devastated. And it really hurt her career because he felt that she betrayed him by trying to do something on her own.
Well, that speaks to like a lot of times people with this disorder will hurt people but feel very justified.
Yeah.
You know, it'll be like almost a defense mechanism. Well, you hurt me, or you were going to, or there's a perceived slight that might have happened, real or imagined.
Yeah, like she never understood it.
Yeah.
She was like, I didn't do anything. And so that's why she was, it didn't hurt her career because he wouldn't have anything to do with her.
Well, obviously we know who she is, so
oh yeah, I mean she bounced back, but it took her a while too. I mean, it hurt her for a long time.
That is interesting. It does seem to lend credence to the rumors that people said this, because full disclosure, I didn't find like an official diagnosis on him, but that's not unusual either. Yeah. Like, this kind of stuff a little close to the cuff.
Yes.
Not the kind of thing you want to go putting on your "Hello, my name is" badge.
Yes. Unless you're at a thing for it, at a conference for it or something.
Yeah, but then we also see like how in the higher forms of this, you know, understanding that need to be seen and to be admired, and that things maybe just have been misunderstood, and so understanding that, making sure that you're understood with the person, and now depending on where they're at with it, they may or may not be able to hear you,
right?
Like depending on how far gone they are, but you know, people go to jail all the time and are rehabilitated. You know, they might just not have understood how their viewing the world was maybe warped, or you know, as they raise their vibration up, they'll just see things differently, and then they can change their lives for the better. So like, it's not like if you get this diagnosis, you're automatically screwed for life. It's just, you kind of have to unlearn what you've learned.
Yeah.
You know, that you can be an individual and not, you know, like the whole world doesn't necessarily have to be against you. That's almost what I feel like antisocial personality disorder is. Like, it's this feeling of, I'm going to do what I want because it's kill or be killed, cutthroat, you know. And you see that in the business world. It's lauded. It's like, yes, you went in there and you like took over that company and you stripped out the copper wiring from the building. Aren't you just so like fabulous? Look at you with your $1 million yacht. We laud that. That's antisocial.
Yeah. It's
So
interesting.
reframing some of that with, I guess, the big boys might be a way to go with this, and be like, well, no, you know, you should care about the workers in those buildings, or the people who rely on that nursing home that you just gutted.
Yeah, exactly.
There's a social contract here. And so where did that person feel like they were so broken from society that they then had to go against it to survive? Like, going to that route, and it's almost like, do they need more compassion in some ways, maybe not less? So it's almost the opposite of our reaction, which is to ostracize. So it's like, no. And you see this in the prison system too. Like, do they need to be treated like animals? No, they probably need to be shown a different way, a more compassionate way. Is there a certain amount of them that may be too far gone? Maybe.
Yeah.
I would start with the assumption that it's the smaller percentage.
Yeah.
And work up from like maybe having more compassion for these people and what they've been through, than, you know, just throwing them away. So,
yeah, I agree.
Hitler.
Well,
This, so I'm like, sure, we'll bring that up, right? He's kind of the quintessential, I guess, and he, you know, we do get, he's got Venus and Mars and his sun all in Taurus.
Now, what does that mean?
So Taurus being that fixed sort of I'm doing what I want,
Okay.
stubborn energy. Taurus is very sensual, so it tends to be in the moment too. It's earth energy. So it's like doing what I feel like doing in that moment. And it's that bull energy too of good luck turning me around once I've made up my mind. Taurus is like the most fixed of the fixed signs. It's like a bull stuck in the mud, right? So there's, and then the sun being there, it's like I want to make sure that I'm comfortable. It's not saying that everybody with Taurus sun is this way at all, but like when life circumstances happen, it can bring this out. Then you get Uranus here in his first house, conjunct his ascendant here too. Uranus rules Aquarius, which hasn't come up much, but is also a fixed energy. It's fixed air. So it's a fixed way of thinking that can change very quickly and suddenly and volatilely. But also it's like on its, I guess, on its dime, right? So it'll change when there's enough evidence that's built up that it is satisfied. So you're not changing somebody's mind with this energy until they're damn well ready.
Yeah.
And it might take a lot to pile up. So there's also neurodivergent energy, which is interesting. And Hitler also had that Capricorn moon that came up with some, right, very controlling. This is the way that I want things to be, and screw everybody else. So
Okay. Huh.
that is present. Also, interestingly, people often talk about Hitler's artistic side. He's got Jupiter with his moon here. That's his soft side, right? That's his painter.
Yeah, he was very into art. I mean, he's really wanted to collect all the art and have, well, I mean, he got a lot of it.
So just as a little aside there, you often wonder what would have happened if his softer side was nurtured rather than like it being very cutthroat and this is the way things are, and you have a real job, and it's the tangible earth-like things in life that matter, which spoke to him, right, with that Taurus energy. But David Letterman was also on this list. You get Johnny Carson, David Letterman. Again, not an official diagnosis that I saw, but just people talking about how he was very different in front of the camera versus off. And you get that Taurus energy, very stubborn, my way or the highway.
Yeah.
Is the Taurus. And that moon in Capricorn again. So that seems to bear out. And Jeffrey Dahmer.
Oh, look at his chart. That's all over the place. I mean, there's a lot of lines going on.
Well, yeah, we've all got our different complexities, but he's right there on the cusp of the fixed sign of Taurus. So that energy is present. He's also got an Aries moon, which is very impulsive, and Mars is there, very impulsive energy. Doesn't think, just does. Right? But he also really likes to be perceived well. So he's got this Libra energy of going along to get along at the same time. And so he kind of, with this energy, there's a constant push and pull back and forth between poles. I would wager he's probably got bipolar or something like that as official diagnosis as well with this energy. So
that's interesting.
So yeah, very much just doing what he wants, but then he would feel bad about it
Oh,
afterwards. So oftentimes it's seen as like there's no remorse, but in this case, I think there was at least part of him that um, felt bad for what he did afterwards, to some degree. Whether or not he let people know it, I don't know.
right.
Not like I don't know a whole lot about Dahmer either.
I don't really, I mean, I know what he did, but I don't know much about what, I don't know. Really, no one, I mean, isn't that interesting? There wasn't like much afterwards, like him in his own words or anything.
I'm sure that he wrote something, right? And they had a movie about him not too long ago, so
Maybe he did.
I'm sure it's out there. Somebody's written his
Somebody's
autobiography.
written something. I don't
I
know.
have not quite gone there, although he was from Milwaukee, and I very much remember when it happened. I live in Wisconsin.
Oh, okay. I knew you lived in Wisconsin. Okay.
The
Well, yeah.
serial killer capital of the world, Wisconsin.
Oh my
Interesting.
God, that's so
No
crazy.
relation. No relation at all. All right. Then we get Charlie Manson. Again, here we get the Taurus energy with his ascendant. He's got conjunct the Uranian that Hitler had. Charles Manson, Hitler, you know.
Yeah.
And he's got the Scorpionic. He's got a ton of Scorpio energy happening here too. So very much like the hidden realms, more the psychological. He liked to toy with his victims, toy with, getting people to do his bidding. Like that's very much more of a Scorpionic thing in the
Yeah.
negative. So, and he also painted illusions. Like he's got Neptune here conjunct Mars right there. Like that's the ability to create reality,
That's interesting.
interestingly. So, um, but he's also got Rahu with his moon. So he was very much a piece of work if you needed to know that.
Wow.
You know, we all kind of don't get away scot-free in some regard. Everybody's chart has things that are good, things that are bad, but sometimes
Yeah.
you feel like a clumping together of really hard aspects. And oftentimes in these more flamboyant personalities, that'll be the case.
Yeah.
So it's just with this combination, it's a mind that's very obsessive and never stops thinking, like to the nth degree of all sorts of, like you name it, running to the gambit. Um, yeah,
Huh.
so.
This is
And then since you pulled up Trump, I thought I'd pull up Biden. He's got his fair share of getting us into wars, and that's antisocial. To me, if you're a warmonger, you're antisocial. You are dropping bombs and killing people with a reckless disregard for life. So that says a lot about a lot of politicians. Every single one of them that's voted for any of this stuff
Hmm.
meets this criteria for me. And so he's just got a lot of scorpionic energy. And interestingly, Biden's got his rising in Sagittarius, which is very happy-go-lucky, personable. Hey, it's Joe,
Mhm.
that sort of energy. And then right behind the scenes, you got all this Scorpio, which again in the lower levels can be very hidden, duplicitous, manipulative, behind the scenes. You're not seeing any of this stuff, but he's doing a whole lot. Waving over here to you, and as you're looking, this other hand stealing from the cookie jar, and you know, all
Oh,
this. So, and then he's also got his moon in Taurus. So we're
huh.
looking at Taurus and energy again. So this is just the way it is. And that's just life. Like you often will hear that. That's just life. That's just the way it goes.
Yeah.
People are. That's how the game is played, right? You just
Yeah.
have to deal with it. Suck it up, And it's like, well, no, what you're doing is antisocial. You're going against the contract. You're not caring about the people. You're
Yeah.
very selfish under the guise of, well, I got mine, so I'm not really going to care about you. I'm going to give you lip service and lie constantly,
Yeah. I do
So
tell my animals that when they're being bad.
that's just the way it is.
That's just the way it is. You can't do that. Maybe I'm being antisocial.
Then I just thought I'd pull up Bezos. He didn't make any lists per se of anybody with this diagnosis, but I was curious, him being like a CEO,
Yeah, that is
one that I
interesting.
consider to be pretty antisocial in the way that he's not the CEO anymore, but has allowed in the past his
Yeah.
work to be treated and kind of, to me, you're stepping on people to
Yeah.
get to that level of wealth.
Mhm.
It's a level of antisocialness just by the nature that you have billions of dollars. Like it's untenable.
Yeah.
While people are starving around the world, while your employees are peeing in bottles, like
Yeah.
not okay. Just not. We need to have a talk, right?
Mm.
And he's got that Aries ascendant, which is very much I'm doing and I don't care. It's impulsive. I'm not overthinking it. I'm doing. I've got all this energy. I've got this drive, and to his credit, like he did build that business up.
Mhm.
And he's berating people for being successful. What I'm saying is that when you're doing it on the backs of your tribe, your tribesmen, your tribespeople, that's a problem.
Yeah.
Then it becomes a problem. Build up your wealth, live comfortably, have your Parisian lifestyle,
Yeah.
but you don't need to be doing it at other people's expense or their dignity. Have more respect for people than that.
Yeah.
And then he's got his son, um, Mars and Mercury, all in Capricorn. And Capricorn
Mhm.
is the CEO. It's that energy of I am my own boss. I have made it to the top. Capricorn energy tends to climb that mountain and want to be the best of the best,
Mm.
right? In an earth energy kind of way. And they don't necessarily, in the lower levels, it doesn't care about the other energies that it had to climb past or step on to get there. In the highest energy, Capricorn is the CEO who takes care of their people.
Yeah.
The leader that's like, I want to make sure everybody's doing good. Ford understood that he had to pay his workers enough to be able to afford his car if he was going to sell it.
Yeah. He wants people to buy it. And what better people than the people who are making it?
Exactly. And it seems to be something that I think is getting lost, especially in the world of AI, right? And
Yeah.
robots and stuff. It's like, well, we'll replace them all with robots. That's great. Are the robots going to consume whatever it is that the robots are making?
Right. Exactly. It's like your best base is the people who work with you. It's like,
Yeah.
why would you?
So being on that mountaintop, you have a view that is privileged. And at the higher levels, you're understanding that I can see how all the cogs in the machine work to make the whole land fruitful.
Yeah.
And from here, I can help run things in a way that makes things smoother, that makes sure that everybody's energies, you know, are taken into account
Yeah.
in ways that make them feel valued and understood so that we have less of a problem with people going to jail and bucking the system because they feel like they're a part of it.
Right.
That is the Capricorn responsibility that ultimately needs to happen. And they've abdicated it, at least in our Western civilization.
Yeah.
And we're doing a course correction right now of like understanding that the bottom line is not the only thing that matters. People matter, emotions matter, family matters, quality of life
Quality
matters.
of life.
There are things that are more important than the almighty dollar.
Yeah.
And the more that we have these conversations about how all the other 11 signs in the zodiac wheel matter, They
Yeah.
all fit in to make the whole thing work. And Capricorn is supposed to be the one that helps see that and facilitate that. So it's not necessarily, I don't want to demonize it entirely either, but it's gotten warped in recent years. So
Yeah, I agree. Oh, I forgot to plug my camera in. I mean my computer in. Hold on, my battery died.
so yeah, just a little interesting side note. And there we have it. That is antisocial personality disorder.
That was interesting.
Hopefully some of the stuff that I said can help somebody out there understand how to work with this energy in a more positive level. I do offer astrology readings. If you're interested in getting one, you can contact me. I have my information below. And whether you have antisocial tendencies or you just are kind of curious as to what your chart does. Again, it's not saying that everybody with fixed energy has these issues, but they can be aggravated within our current system in the lower levels. So to me, Leo energy can be some of the most warm, wonderful, pleasant energy to be around. It's like high vibrational Leo is like being around the sun. It's just, it can be so very, very healthy, and just uplifting, and the warm Tauresian energy can be very welcoming and, give you the best food and the sweetest wine, high vibrational Scorpio, like nobody's going to emotionally care for you in the way that a high vibrational Scorpio is. That's psychology. That's understanding people on that deeper level, and helping people work through trauma and crises and stuff like that. That's high vibrational Scorpio. There's the ones that like you want to be there when the shit hits the fan, So, and then the Aquarian energy, which didn't come up as much in this one, but it's more outside of the box and, able to see things from a really different perspective in an intellectual way, like putting together puzzle pieces and ways that we need as a society. Like it's an energy that works very well with the Capricornian energy. To be able to be like, okay, if we want to go forward and make progress, here's how we can best utilize and connect the dots on all of these things that maybe the other energies don't necessarily see. So the fixed signs are fixed for a reason, and they often change in their time and their way. If you think about a bull, it wants to make sure it's sure-footed. So you want the Taurus energy being the one that's in charge of the financial system, because otherwise it's going up and down too much. So it should be stubborn, right?
Yeah.
But if it's too stubborn and too entrenched, then that's not good either. There needs to be that balance struck. So
Yeah.
and I think that's pretty much it. If you have anything that you want to add, put it in the comments below. I always love hearing from everybody. And Sarah, thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you. It's always great. I love these sessions. Absolutely. 100%. I always learn so much.
Thank you. And please like, share, subscribe, all the things. Helps the channel grow, helps get this discussion out there. And it's sort of an outside of the box look at the DSM-5, which is I don't think I said it in this one, but the Diagnostic Statistical Manual. And until next time, you can join me next week at 6:30 p.m. Central Time at the Authortunities Hub. I'll put a link to that below. It's an algorithm-free community. It's off the beaten path, and it's a great place for creatives. So we love to have you join us there as well. Until then, I will talk to you all later.